I have been excited for like 3 days now to do this segment. I have been quaking in my fucking boots, all right? Quaking in my leather Gondorian Ranger boots, okay? I've been so excited to talk about this fucking show because the lead up to its release has been a little bit frustrating for me for a variety of reasons, and I felt very vindicated when I actually saw the show premiere. I'm talking today about the Rings of Power Amazon series. Now, I first became aware of this series like a year plus ago. It's actually been a long time now we've known that this Amazon Rings of Power series was coming, exactly what it would be about, what story they would be adapting, if any, from Tolkien's literature was not 100% clear for a very long time. However, from the very beginning, there were naysayers. From the very, very beginning, before an image of the show had even come out, before any knowledge of the show other than Amazon is working on making a new Lord of the Rings related show, or a show in the Lord of the Rings universe. That is all that we knew, and from the start, there was negativity around it. And very little positivity, and not only that, but very little reasonable patience, you know? Like, I feel like a reasonable person would be like, oh, a new bit of media is going to get made? I guess I'll wait and see how it is. And if it's good or bad, then, I won't watch it, or I'll slam it, or if it's good, I'll continue to watch it and I'll praise it, Pretty, like, reasonable mindset, right? But before we even knew anything about this show, the internet was shitting on it, on its very existence, on the concept of its existence. And that did not stop when the very first images of the show came out. And it showed something that very, very quickly and very, very often will piss off nerds, especially Tolkien nerds. They showed non-white people playing characters that clearly herald from parts of Middle-earth that, in the lore, should all be white people. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened. Back when The Hobbit initially released, there were a few background characters that the Chuds claimed were forced diversity because they weren't white. They were literally just random human characters that were in the background of the Hobbit movies, like in some human cities. They complained about that, but because it was so to the side and not in the forefront, the Chuds didn't really get much momentum complaining about that. Even the Hobbit movies, as recent as they are, still held up this non-political, non-diverse thing that the conservatives tend to like. Besides a little bit of girl powerness with the elf, besides that, it seems like the Chuds didn't mind it too much. However, when images of this show started coming out, we were seeing things like black hobbits. We were seeing things like Galadriel, a woman, a she-elf wearing plate armor. We just saw a lot of stuff that naturally, if you know anything about the Chuds on the internet, would just be perfect bait to set them off. Perfect bait to set them off. And so very quickly, you had three groups of people on the internet that made up the general discussion around this show before it even came out. And it was these three groups, right? On one hand, you had the people complaining about forced diversity, black dwarves, black elves, women with armor and fighting and stuff like that. Then you had people complaining about the show's adherence to Tolkien's literature. This show and Amazon do not have the rights to the Silmarillion, only the appendices of The Lord of the Rings. Now, that sounds bad. To be fair, though, when I actually watched the show, they did a lot of stuff to get around the rights issues. Like, in the lead up to this show, and when talking about it, they were like, oh, we couldn't really touch this or that because of rights, but they played around with the rights a little bit. They found some loopholes. They did things like, some say, when a character would refer to some event, like they do stuff to kind of get around the rights issues, to include and kind of like condense some things, to include the important aspects of the Silmarillion that are important in this tale. Though it is true, a large portion of this story is essentially filling in the gaps on a somewhat underdeveloped portion of Tolkien's lore. That's not to say the Second Age is like fucking barren in Tolkien's writing, but it's certainly not the most important age of things that happen by any means, right? Tolkien's favorite age was clearly the First Age. I mean, the Silmarillion exists, and that's pretty clear. He clearly really likes the First Age. And besides the events of The Hobbit and like the Last Alliance and well, didn't the Last Alliance end of the second? The Last Alliance ended the Second Age, right? And then the Fourth Age started when Frodo and Sam destroyed the ring. So yeah, the Third Age, the Second Age was okay, yeah. Okay, I apologize. So The Hobbit takes place in the Third Age. I got my timelines mixed up. God, fake Tolkien fan. Regardless, to be clear about my pedigree here, by the way, I don't remember the first time I watched or read Lord of the Rings. It's been a consistent, just constant in my life. Like, the first time I watched Lord of the Rings was before I was capable of forming memories. So my earliest memories are ones in which I was a fan of Lord of the Rings and knew of its existence and liked it. So that's a bit of an insight into how close to my heart Lord of the Rings is. You can see in the background, my box set of Lord of the Rings Extended Edition, CDs right there, or DVDs on my fucking desk right there on my shelf. The Blu-ray on the top is Fellowship of the Ring, then Two Towers, then Return of the King right there, and they're all extended edition everything, and they've also got the director's commentary and behind the scenes and stuff. It's dope. Anyway, I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, okay? If I could, I would decorate my room with fucking Lord of the Rings merch and stuff. So do not, by any means, say that I am not a true Tolkien fan, okay? Do not gatekeep me. However, I did not fall into any of the three groups that were shit-talking this show before it came out, all right? I didn't fall into the group that was saying it was bad because of woke. I didn't fall into the group that said it was bad because it wasn't accurate to Tolkien's writing. And I didn't fall into that secret third group that said it was bad because Amazon bad. There have been people who've unironically tried to take this like pseudo-progressive narrative on things and say, if this show fails, then Amazon fails, and that's based. And it's like, really? You think making this show fail is going to hurt Amazon or any of the people of the higher up? No, you're just going to make a good piece of media stop existing for people to enjoy and make a bunch of people who worked on it lose their jobs. It's really bizarre. Anyway, I didn't fall into any of those three groups. I fell into what I would argue is the reasonable group. I'll wait and see how it turns out. And I actually actively avoided most, advertising for this show because I didn't want any expectations. I wanted to go into it almost like I did the first time I ever watched The Lord of the Rings as a kid, not knowing anything about it, presumably. I wanted to go into this knowing not what it was going to be covering, knowing not what it was really going to be focusing on, or much of what the main characters would be. I knew that Galadriel would be a main character. I knew that Celebrimbor would likely be in it, and I was pretty certain that obviously Sauron was in it, and orcs would be in it, and I knew that hobbits would be in it. But, besides that, I didn't know much about it going in because I deliberately avoided promotional material. And when the night came, and I, for months, by the way, until the show actually came out, tons of videos going up on YouTube with millions of views talking about how the show's going to fail, it will be dead on arrival, it will suck. This show, a very common one, was this show will be an insult to the fans. And then the night came. Just a few nights ago, I booted up Amazon Prime. I said, all right, I like Invincible. I like The Boys. Amazon's streaming service has not disappointed me so far with their original series. This is the most expensive TV show ever made. It's Middle-earth and Lord of the Rings. The people that have made it are supposedly fans of Tolkien. And let's see if this is good. And within the first 3 minutes of the show, we get this scene. This is going to be a 27-second clip that I'm going to show. I should be able to show it on stream without getting in trouble for copyright. But this scene in the first, 2 or 3 minutes of the show alone just fucking sold me. I'm not saying the rest of it isn't great, but I feel like it was this scene here that made me go, I'll recreate my reaction after I see you guys' reaction to this, because holy fucking shit. this is not an insult to Tolkien fans, okay? Let's watch this clip.
We left Valinor, our home, and journeyed to a distant realm. One filled with untold perils and strange creatures beyond count. A place known as Middle-earth.
I don't think you guys can really understand exactly how hard my dick got. I don't think you guys understand exactly how fucking hard my dick got during the opening of this show. That is from the opening of the show. I knew Zan loved that bit. Oh, I got hard. I have a semi-chub right now. I can't stand up. I'll get banned from Twitch. Anyway, that there is a pretty good representation of how the show looks alone. Okay? Now, obviously, I'm showing you a Twitter video. So, let me tell you how much that clip got compressed. I recorded that clip from Amazon Prime with OBS, then uploaded on Twitter, then streamed that clip to you from Twitter through my streaming service to your TVs. So very, very much, like, reduced in quality, but, like, even then, you could tell how beautiful that fucking looked. No, they blew their budget on those scenes. No, they didn't. This is the most expensive TV show ever made. If you've seen a season of Game of Thrones, you know that there's plenty more insane-looking action still in the future waiting for us. That is just the taste. That is just the taste. This is the most expensive TV show ever made. So, obviously, you know, the show looks beautiful. It looks like the most expensive show ever made. They definitely focused a lot on practical effects, especially the scenes with the orcs. Any scene so far we've gotten where there are orcs have been great. The orcs are all practical and scarier and better looking than they looked in the original Lord of the Rings movies. They definitely took inspiration for these orcs from Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. They seem to have more personality, especially in their armor and the way they dress and their clothing. You can almost just look at them and tell what their rank is in Sauron's army. The fact that they're practical effects and the way the show does lighting has this very original... You guys remember those scenes in the Two Towers when the Uruk-hai were marching over the hills towards Helm's Deep, and the sun was just kind of reflecting off of the armor, and their armor being practical just had this really cool look to it? You get that look a lot with their armor of the orcs I see in a few of the scenes so far in the show, and I really like that. There's just a lot of things that as a Tolkien fan and especially as a Lord of the Rings like movie fan, because I really do love the movies, I'd say more than Tolkien's works, and I'll explain that in a moment, just really hit the right spot for me. Now here is where I'm going to talk about the God, I don't know if I want to talk first about the controversy or if I want to talk first about the accuracy of things, I guess, or the people complain. We'll start with the controversy. So, this show has naturally gotten a lot of shit for the casting. So if we look up Rings of Power woke, we can just kind of generally... we can get an idea of what's going down here over on YouTube. A lot of them are, a lot of these channels, particularly Nerdrotic, like to edit gold grills onto the black characters in the show. The Nerdrotic guy likes to do it with this lady. Oh yeah, here's a Nerdrotic thumbnail where he seems to have edited Leslie Jones' face onto the dwarf lady, which is... So you can definitely understand where the hate has been coming from here, and the same people that have been saying this show's gonna suck because black people are now because the show does not suck because of black people. It actually is pretty good. They are now trying to double down on their takes. I actually can't believe that there are some of them trying to claim it's worse than they thought, but a lot of these videos, especially the ones that are more recent, their views are just not doing as well in comparison to the way they did before the show came out. These videos are very quickly dying out because people are actually watching the show and going, oh, it's actually good. It's not bad. And then they're not caring about this content anymore. So I wouldn't expect this kind of stuff to last much longer. But it really is interesting how these people who claim to be reputable, like, movie and show reviewers, they have written this off months and even a year plus before it actually came out. It's crazy. Oh yeah, and of course they're review bombing the shit out of it too. Rotten Tomatoes, Rings of Power. Within like an hour of the show going up, before it was even possible for anybody to have watched it, the tomato meter score had dropped to 50% on the viewer score, and before like the first night had even ended, they'd already like dropped the score down to 38, now up to 39% on Rotten Tomatoes, and they had to lock the reviews because it's getting review bombed. Now, it's getting review bombed on pretty much everything, because that's the same thing that happened to Captain Marvel. It's the same thing that happened to The Witcher show. It's the same thing that happened to the new Star Wars movies. It's the same thing that happens to literally anything that has brown people in it. Like right-wing communities get together and they mass review bomb it. And right now the conservatives and the chuds and the grifters are trying to use that as evidence that their grand predictions that 6 months ago they knew this show would be bad were actually correct. So yeah, the reason why they don't hate House of the Dragon, not only because the premiere had tens of millions of viewers, but that they were also good, which some of them, like Critical Drinker, changing some of his video titles because of how wrong he was, thinking they would fail. Well, this show's probably going to do extremely well. The interesting thing to me is that there is a comparison to make to the way that House of the Dragon got treated. Before House of the Dragon, which, God, that show's really good too. I've watched the first 3 episodes, obviously. The new one came out last night. House of the Dragon, when they first announced it, they revealed a few things. They revealed Rhaenyra as the main character, and, well, naturally, they got mad about her. Mary Sue comments, the world over, came around. They got mad about, I forget what his name is. He's the head of the other Valyrian house in King's Landing that is not the Targaryens. But they're the Corleys, yeah, the Corleys, I think their names are. Yeah, they got really mad about the head of the Corley house from Valyria because they're black and they're from Valyria, and I guess the lore established that people from Valyria are white with white hair. So they got mad about that. So there was the whole like, it's gonna be woke, complaining fest about House of the Dragon before it dropped as well, and then it dropped, and shit tons of Game of Thrones fans watched it and enjoyed it, and now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait, oh god, wait, this is good? Oh shit. Oh no, we kind of staked, oh god, and they changed their titles. I think someone earlier in the chat mentioned that Critical Drinker changed the title of his, a bunch of his House of the Dragon videos before they came out. He put out a bunch of videos shit-talking House of the Dragon before it came out, and then it did come out, and it was good, and now he went back and changed the titles. I find that very, very funny. Regardless, though, back onto the topic of the Rings of Power. I watched the first 2 episodes, really, really liked it. There's a lot to enjoy. Apparently, the total runtime of Season 1 will be 50 hours. Now, that must be including credits rolling, too, because that's fucking nuts, if so, because we're 2 episodes in out of 8 and 2 hours down. So I don't know where the other 48 hours are going to come from, but like, I'm down. I'm down for 48 more hours or whatever it is of this show. So far, the setup is fantastic. The biggest, so I'm going to start acknowledging like my criticisms of the show now and the other people's criticisms of the show now. So as someone who enjoyed the show, here are some of my criticisms. and more so the criticisms of other people and my acknowledgement of it. The pacing. The pacing so far, past the opening segment and a few like fast-paced scenes that we've had so far, are a little bit slower. It's a lot of dialogue and character building. Now, this is to be expected in the first 2 episodes of a show. I think there's a reason they dropped 2 episodes on the first night and not 1. Probably episode 3, things are going to start really ramping up because we're going to Numenor next episode, chat. We're going to Numenor! Anyway, with that said, though, episode 3, things are probably going to start to ramp up, but 2 episodes down, things are pretty fast, but they're also kind of slow in places, and I've seen that criticism around, and it's made me think about other shows and movies that are comparable to it, and how they started off. And I remember watching Game of Thrones and being like 5 episodes into Game of Thrones and being like, it's a really good thing I know what this is leading up to, or I would not be sitting through this. I'm sorry, but Game of Thrones Season 1 is a slog. Okay? There's some high moments that make it really, really good, but Game of Thrones doesn't start to really hook you till Season 2. The Lord of the Rings, like, if you're a first-time viewer, doesn't seem to hook most people until halfway into the movie, if not more, when I show new people the movies. Getting people attached to the characters and doing the basic setup, I can forgive that the pacing was a little off in the first 2 episodes. I agree with that criticism. I would like it to be a little faster, a little bit more to the point on some lines. I yet to see the point in some dialogue exchanges to last as long as they do. But we'll see. I will reserve my full judgment, which may be very scathing. Because to be clear, I am a die-hard Lord of the Rings fan. If this disappoints me, my criticism when it finishes will be scathing. However, so far, I'm quite pleased. If I thought this was going to end up being bad, I think the signs of it being bad would have shown up already. So far, I'm seeing nothing but green flags. I've not seen any yellow or red flags yet at all. For the record, I will acknowledge that for some people, there is a genuine value, I guess. Not value, I should say, but there is a genuine cringe value in what one could consider to be diversity that's done for the sake of, like, the attention of it, right? There have been cases where media has done diversity and has done it in a very, okay, now pat us in the back for it kind of way. You guys have noticed it, right? It's the kind of thing The Boys makes fun of, if you've seen The Boys. Like, come, it's a real thing. It's a real thing. It's true. It's factual. It's you know, cringy when it happens. Like that one scene in the in Endgame, the girl power scene in the Endgame final battle, cringy as fuck. There has been nothing like that so far in the Rings of Power. The closest we've gotten to that has been this scene that people are complaining about on Twitter. Now, this particular scene has been captioned with "This is embarrassing." Now, other than I showed this particular scene to some friends in my Discord, or in like a Discord group I'm in, and I showed it to them, and I was like, "Hey guys, does this scene like seem bad to you?" Because they're like fantasy fans that aren't super necessarily into Tolkien. Some of them are. Some of them hadn't even seen Lord of the Rings. Some of them have. But they're genuinely like Tolkien fans and like decent at reviewing media. So I just thought, as people that weren't in on like the hysteria around this show, I showed them this scene and asked them what was wrong with it. And they genuinely couldn't understand what the problem with it was, especially those that had seen Lord of the Rings. They couldn't understand. So let's watch this scene that people are complaining about. 2.8 million views on Twitter, by the way. This scene is getting absolutely shit on. This is apparently like evidence that this show is garbage. Let's watch. I'm pretty sure you can do this in Shadow of Mordor. Oh, they ain't leaving the finisher where she knifes him in the head. That was my favorite part. People got really, really fucking mad about that scene. This scene has 2.8 million views on Twitter, and the quote tweet is, "This is so embarrassing." Nearly 10,000 likes. Fair amount of quote tweets, no doubt, some of them pushing back, and a fair amount of replies, but like, people genuinely, in mass, thought that was a problem. Now, I should remind, the part of it that they're mostly complaining about is that she vaulted off of a sword. You've seen The Lord of the Rings, right? I'm sorry, I've seen elves in the Lord of the Rings movies do things that make that look like nothing. Walking on snow without even leaving footprints. In the books, elves can walk on blades of grass without bending them. Legolas surfed on a shield at Helm's Deep. Like, I think that, listen, elves are established in Tolkien's world as being able to do dumb shit like that. So just, it's not Lord of the Rings anymore if you don't have elves doing dumb shit like that. I like it. The only reason they really take issue with it is because she's a woman. Leading up to the release of this show, a lot of people took issue with Galadriel wearing plate armor and wielding a sword and being a warrior class. People who complain about Galadriel in this show being a warrior class are not real. Like, I guess it's accurate in that there's not a lot of evidence that Galadriel would have used swords and wielded plate or chainmail armor in Tolkien's writing. However, in the sense that, like, there are classes in that way, and Tolkien's magic or writing system is just ridiculous. That's not how Tolkien does magic. It's not how Tolkien presents power. Tolkien described Galadriel as being, quote-unquote, the fairest and most mighty of elves in Middle-earth. And the way that Tolkien depicts magic isn't like a hard magic system like, say, World of Warcraft, where, like, oh, this wizard can shoot ice beams that are stronger than this wizard because, like, whatever. It's not like that. The way that Tolkien wrote magic was like there were general tiers of power and mightiness, and based on, like, the situation, whoever was stronger would usually win in that scenario unless there was a reason for that not to happen. And the magic would work in a way that made sense in the environment or in the story or in the explaining of how it would work when it needed to. That's how he did. Like, Lord of the Rings has some pretty fucking soft magic as far as the system goes. With that said, though, Galadriel is just generally described as being mighty and powerful. So I don't really deny the ability for her to fucking, like, be able to use a sword and plate armor. That's not exactly outside of her moveset, especially when she butt blasted Sauron back to Mordor out of Dol Guldur in The Hobbit. Anyway, yeah, there's just, like, some stuff that people nitpick, but overall, I genuinely enjoyed it. There's some cool stuff that's, like, very mysterious and cool, and some interesting storylines that I think they're going to end up going towards that are going to really ramp things up. It's very obvious to me right off the bat. Now it's time for predictions, okay? Or no, before we do predictions, God, I'm getting so scatterbrained because I've been so excited to do this review. Before I do predictions, I actually want to talk about a very particular mindset around the chuds when that are complaining about this show. I saw a really, really good tweet that did probably the best job I've ever seen at explaining this phenomenon. I like to take the piss at, like, the chuds and the grifters who complain about diversity in media. But I think this particular tweet thread is a really good insight into how these people think. So I'm going to go ahead and read it off to you guys, because I think you'll start to understand what I mean. When people talk about, quote-unquote, what's alienating conservatives about comics, games, movies, and whatever, I remember a conversation I had with a self-proclaimed conservative who said that if Gargoyles was made today, like, not a reboot, exactly as it was made in the 90s, Elisa would be too woke. He was trying to make the point that he liked this character in his childhood and enjoyed how she was written, but if the exact same character was written in the exact same way now, it would just be quote-unquote furthering agendas, and it would make the show bad, even if it was the same show. He had this idea that all the media he consumed in his childhood existed in a political vacuum, and all the choices made about the character, ages, races, genders, etc., just happened to turn out that way because that's how they were plucked off the organic farm-to-table fiction tree. But if he saw the exact same things being handled the exact same way today, it would be bad and impure, because the only reason someone would make those choices these days would be to pander. And I really, really like that tweet. I really, really like that tweet explanation of how they think, because it's spot on. It really is a fantastic insight into how I thought as well. In many cases, instances of wokeness, quote-unquote, that happen in media nowadays that people complain about are really not that different than any girl power or woke scene or inclusion of diversity that we've had in media in the past. Media that was once heralded as being fine. And it's funny to me, when that very same media is made today, they complain about it. There was a time when conservatives would point to Ripley from Alien or Sarah Connor from The Terminator as an example of a well-done, strong female character that wasn't done to pander or push a feminist agenda. However, nowadays, we've had the exact same character of Sarah Connor show up in the new Terminator movie, and movies, I believe, as well, like literally played by Linda Hamilton, and playing the same character, written exactly the same way, doing the same exact kind of shit. And they made the same exact kind of claims about it being woke, even though it was the same character, doing the same actress playing the same character, doing the same things in the same universe. It was still woke because it was happening today. In that same right, I think it's worth showing this notorious scene, which is also adapted pretty damn accurately from Tolkien's writing, by the way. So this is pretty damn true to Tolkien as well. This scene, which you could absolutely never get away with today from The Return of the King.
You fool. No man can kill me.
I am no man.
Could never get away with that today. You could never get away with that today. Not in a million years could you get away with having a female character kill off the mightiest servant of Sauron right after uttering the line, "I am no man," and revealing she's a woman. Never! Never! You could not make The Lord of the Rings today. You couldn't make it today. You could not make The Lord of the Rings today. You couldn't get away with it. He dies screaming like an Xbox Live squeaker. True. This video won't get monetized now, lol. It better, okay? You can listen, Cherry, you can like remove the audio from the clips where I show. Actually, no, it should be fine to show the audio, particularly because some of the audio is important in these scenes. Anyway, with that said, the complaining about the show, the hysteria over the show, really does seem like people that are either motivated to hate it for political reasons, or people motivated to hate it because they just want to hate it, and they decided they were going to hate it a long time ago. People like Mahler, people like Nerdrotic, basically anybody who's been heralding this show's low quality before it came out, I just don't take seriously on their current criticisms of the show. I just don't. I can't take their criticism seriously because they established that they did not care about the integrity of their criticisms when they started criticizing it before they even knew anything about it. I'm sorry, but nobody who criticizes and basically does a negative review of a thing before it's even come out is a worthy to listen to reviewer, all right? So that's like your Mahlers, your Nerdrotics, your critical drinkers, your the Quarterings, your Geeks and Gamers. These people all fall into the same like basket. They're all the same level of shameless, just shit talk whatever is popular to shit talk, be a contrarian, dick ride whatever is popular and fun to dick ride on the internet, And yeah, it just I've yet to really. Maybe I'm wrong, but whew, it just seems like overwhelmingly every time I see a opinion piece on a piece of media, whether it be like the opinions of the quartering and of like people like Mahler and the Critical Drinker align on just about every single piece of media. I'm willing to bet. And they would claim it's not because, oh, minorities woke garbage or whatever. It's because it's bad. But I don't know about that. It seems like overwhelmingly they're always on board to jump onto the wagon of let's shit on the thing that the grifter anti-woke brigade are shitting on right now. Regardless, though, people are allowed not to like things. Their unenjoyment of media does not affect my enjoyment of it. After all, I'm having a much better time liking this show than they're having disliking it. And speaking of, it's time to have some fun talking about what I'm most excited for. This bit's mostly only going to be entertaining to the Tolkien fans in the audience, but these are the three main theories that I have for this show, and I want you guys to refer back to it if I end up being wrong, okay? Here are my big theories, okay? My big three theories. Meteor. Man. We got the Meteor Man theory. This is like the first big mystery of the show right now. Who is Meteor Man? Because at the end of the first episode, a very mysterious man who's yet to be identified and is only referred to as the Stranger fell out of a meteor. So that should be interesting. Very cool to see what's going to happen there. Where is Sauron? And what's Celebrimbor doing? All right? These are the big three plot elements, I think, of Season 1 so far, okay? Where is Sauron? What is he up to? What is he planning? Where is he gathering his strength? Where are his orcs? Where is he, doing all of his shit? That's obviously a big part of it, is hunting Sauron. It's a big part of Galadriel's storyline. The Meteor Man and the Hobbits. Now, I don't really have a strong theory as to where Sauron is. I believe it's probably pretty damn likely he's in Dol Guldur, as he was in The Hobbit, but, well, no, that wouldn't make sense. No, he would probably be... I mean, he could be way up in the north. That's where it implied he was before. He could be way down south. He could literally be anywhere. He's probably disguised. We know he's going to disguise himself in his Anatar form, his elven fair form, in order to trick seemingly Elrond and Celebrimbor. I don't believe Meteor Man is Sauron. It'd be a really cool twist if they did this. And I'll explain a twist that they could go about that would be like nutty as fuck if they did this and would be really, really cool. But regardless, what's Celebrimbor doing? He's building a big fucking tower with the help of the dwarves that is going to be the best forge in Middle-earth. They're going to use that forge to make the Rings of Power with the help of Anatar, aka Sauron. Sauron is going to, then Celebrimbor is going to be like, something going on with this guy. I'm going to make my own elven Rings of Power. And he's going to make his own 3 rings. One's going to go to Galadriel. She's going to get that. No doubt it's going to be like her big power up in the show at some point is when she gets the, I believe she has Nenya, the Ring of Water. Is that the one she has? I believe she has the Elven Ring of Water, if I recall correctly. So yeah, they'll make the rings, and then Sauron will get pissed at Celebrimbor and make the Celebrim banner. Google it and look at Google Images if you want to know what that is. Or don't, if you don't want spoilers. And Meteor Man, I'm going to give you guys my theory on Meteor Man. I don't think he's Gandalf. There's 3 different characters he could potentially be. He could be Sauron in disguise. I think this is unlikely. He could be one of the Blue Wizards, which would be interesting, and a new character to introduce and expand on. That could be really interesting if he was one of the Blue Wizards, and it'd make a little more sense since the Blue Wizards were implied to have arrived before the other 3. Or he could literally just be Gandalf, a younger Gandalf who landed, met hobbits, or Harfoots as they're called, and this explains his affinity for them because they were the first life form he met when he fell down onto Middle-earth. Any of these three theories is pretty plausible except for the Sauron one. If he ends up being Sauron, though, this is how I'd really like it to go. I would really love if they revealed at the end of the season, if they really, really hammered home the Sauron the Deceiver title with every one of these characters our main characters have been meeting, that have been like strangers they've met that have become friends, are all Sauron tricking them. The Meteor Man is Sauron. The man that Galadriel has met on the ocean is Sauron. The, I don't know, somebody who seems to be friendly, that the elf guy, I forget what his name is, that's up in the north in overlooking the humans that once sided with Sauron or with Morgoth. Like, if maybe his girlfriend, maybe she is actually Sauron in disguise. Like, if they revealed a shit ton of characters were actually Sauron in disguise, fucking with and deceiving our main characters in a bunch of different forms, that would be a nutty twist for the season finale. But that's a little too crazy, I think. I wouldn't expect this show to go that crazy, but if they did that, that'd be pretty crazy. Sauron is Eminem, he hasn't showed yet. Yeah, so Sauron's Eminem form is Anatar. That doesn't it's not necessarily confirmed that's the only form he can take in this show, so we don't know. But I'm really leaning on Meteor Man as probably either Gandalf or a Blue Wizard. I'm willing to bet he's most certainly an Astari. He's most certainly one of the wizards. I highly doubt he's Sauron. I just don't think it just doesn't make sense for it to be Sauron, if I'm being honest. Like, what does he gain from doing any of the things that this stranger Meteor Man has done? I think it's probably one of the Blue Wizards. It could be Gandalf, but I think one of the Blue Wizards would make sense. What he's been saying in Quenya to the main Hobbit girl has been Hand of Fire. In Quenya, like Mana Ure is what he keeps on saying, which is Hand of Fire. So he's saying, he's referring to Sauron. He's saying Sauron over and over and over again. So it almost seems like he's one of the Astari sent to Middle-earth, and he's like freaking out because he doesn't know how to communicate with anybody. Like, there's an evil motherfucker here, and I've been sent to warn you guys. There's an evil motherfucker. I can't speak your language, but you know, it seems like that's what's happening there, and there's like a translation problem, but we'll see what happens. I'm really, really excited to see. Wait, the Quenya word for Sauron? No, Hand of Fire is what he was saying. It was like Mana Ure or something. And it means, or Mane Ure. I forget exactly what he was saying, but he kept chanting it over and over again. And some of the experts on the Lord of the Rings subreddit confirmed that it translates to Hand of Fire. And multiple times in the show, they referred to Sauron's hand as quote-unquote flame unquenched. So it seems very likely that he's just talking about Sauron. Anyway, show's really got me hooked. And I'm excited to see where it goes and how big it ends up getting. I really hope that the amount of overwhelming negative coverage that the right has given this show with political, negative political intentions doesn't end up harming it so much that we don't actually get, like, the story finished. Like, how much would it suck if, like, the chuds convinced the vast majority of people that would have tried to watch the show not to even try it, and it fails, and it's really fucking good, and it ends up being like a Firefly situation where a fantastic show gets canceled after one season. Like, imagine if that actually ends up happening. Like, to be fair, like, I haven't seen that much talk about the show. Like, not as much as about House of the Dragon. It's not as popular or like as discussed as House of the Dragon, which is surprising that something Lord of the Rings related is being talked about less than like something Game of Thrones related. That's crazy to me. But yeah, I mean, what can I say? It really is wild how quick the internet has swung to a more conservative stance. Like it had over 25 million viewers. The Lord of the Rings show. Yeah. Oh shit. I thought it didn't do super well. To be fair, I've really only looked at the reports on its ratings from conservative YouTube channels. Views on Amazon Lord of the Rings. I'm glad it's doing well. Holy shit, 25 million. Oh my god. Amazon's Lord of the Rings of Power draws more than 25 million viewers. Holy fuck. Amazon.com Incorporated said that more than 25 million people around the world sampled the premiere of its highly anticipated series, The Lord of the Rings of Power, on September 2nd, the biggest debut in the streaming service's history. Based on the work of J.R.R. Tolkien, the series is the most expensive television production ever. The Wall Street Journal reported that the budget to make the show, coupled with the fee to acquire the rights from the Tolkien estate, was about $715 million. God damn. Yeah, this show's not going to get canceled. Glad to hear that. Anyway, with that said, I love the show. If you're a Tolkien fan, or even just somebody who likes fantasy, or even if you're just, like, interested in seeing if it's as bad as the conservatives and the chuds are claiming it is, just give it a watch. It's good fucking TV. You're probably going to enjoy it, and if you don't, you can just stop watching. That's my advice. I'm going to give like a full season 1 review down the road as a diehard Tolkien fan once the full season 1 has finished. Maybe I end up looking at it like, totally fucking disappointed, like they bungled everything. Maybe I end up looking at it like I did Arcane. You guys remember Arcane? First 2 episodes of that show were like, okay, this is fine. And then season 3 and onward, I was like, holy fucking shit. And everyone was like, holy fucking shit, this is a masterpiece from season 3 onward. So we'll see what happens. I'm really excited. They got me hooked so far, and I'm pleased. With all that said, if you enjoyed this segment, please consider leaving a like. It's completely free. It helps the channel a lot, and I really do appreciate it. You can also support me by subscribing, ring the bell icon so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video on my channel. And finally, if you want to support me financially, you can do so by subscribing, gifting a sub, or donating on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me financially on YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, or through Patreon. But as always, any support you offer is always very much appreciated, regardless of how you do it. And as always, have a good one.